The great council chamber stretched across 3 levels, its crystal walls glowing with soft blue light. 12 different alien species sat in their designated sections, each representing civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime to convert dozens of languages into something everyone could understand. Ambassador Krell stepped forward onto the central platform. His tall, gray body moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a war. The Vorthan Empire had conquered 47 star systems in the last century alone. Today, he was here to add one more to that list. Council members, Krell began, his voice echoing through the chamber. We face a new threat to galactic order. The holographic display above him flickered to life. Images of small blue and green planets appeared, rotating slowly. Ships moved between them, carrying cargo and passengers. Space stations orbited the worlds like metal moons. This species calls itself human, Krell continued. They have appeared in 7 outer rim systems over the past 50 years. They build colonies without permission. They trade with species we have marked as restricted. They steal technology from abandoned ships and somehow make it work. An elderly member of the ethereal collective floated closer to examine the images. Her transparent body shimmered as she spoke. They look primitive. 2 arms, 2 legs, single head. Very basic design. That is what makes them dangerous, Krell replied. They adapt too quickly. Look at this. The display changed to show human ships. They were ugly things, built from mismatched parts. Some had Vorthan crystal arrays stuck to their hulls. Others used collective energy cores with human-made engines. Nothing matched, but somehow it all worked together. They take our technology and change it, Krell explained. They do not understand the proper way to build things. They just make it work somehow. This violates every principle of galactic engineering. A representative from the Silicon Collective, his metal body clicking as he moved, studied the images. Carefully, their ships look functional. Perhaps they are more advanced than we thought. Impossible, snorted General Vex, the current council leader. His 4 arms gestured dismissively. My species ruled space when these humans were still crawling in mud. No species develops advanced technology in just a few thousand years. The display showed more evidence. Human colonies expanding across empty worlds. Trade convoys moving between systems. Children playing in the streets of alien-looking cities that somehow felt familiar and strange at the same time. They reproduce very quickly, Krell noted. Each colony starts with maybe 10,000 individuals. Within 20 years, they have cities with millions. They build schools, factories, and spaceports faster than any species we have encountered. How many of them are there? Asked Ambassador Tull from the Helix Confederation. Our best estimates suggest around 12 billion total, spread across 17 worlds and 43 space stations. Krell paused for effect. They started with just 1 planet 50 years ago. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Even the fastest expanding species usually took centuries to establish that many colonies. What is their military strength? General, Vex demanded. Approximately 200 ships of various sizes. Most appear to be converted civilian vessels. Their weapons are basic projectile and energy systems, mostly reverse-engineered from salvaged equipment. Krell smiled coldly. Nothing that could threaten a proper military force. The council leader studied the data for several minutes. Around him, other representatives whispered among themselves. The humans looked so ordinary. 2 eyes, brown or yellow or black hair, skin in various shades of brown and pink. They wore simple clothing and seemed to spend a lot of time talking to each other in large groups. What is their social structure? Asked the ethereal representative. Chaotic, Krell replied. They have no central government. Each colony makes its own decisions. They argue constantly about everything. They cannot even agree on what to eat. for breakfast, according to our intelligence reports. This brought laughter from several council members. Species that could not organize properly were never a real threat. They would fight among themselves before they could challenge established powers. However, Krell continued, his tone becoming more serious, they show concerning signs of cooperation when facing outside threats. When the pirate lords attacked their mining station last year, every human colony sent ships to help. They worked together like they had trained for it their whole lives. Pirates are not the same as a proper military campaign, General Vex pointed out. Any species can fight criminals. The display changed again, showing detailed scans of human equipment. Their computers used quantum processing that should have been impossible with their level of technology. Their ships had backup systems. Even their smallest fighters carried enough supplies for weeks of independent operation. They over-engineer everything, Krell explained. Where a normal species would use one system, humans use 3. They seem to expect their equipment to break and plan for it. Very wasteful, but also very hard to disable completely. Paranoid, commented the Silicon Collective representative. Fear-based thinking, another sign of primitive development. Ambassador Tull leaned forward in his seat. What are they doing now? Are they expanding toward Council territory? Not directly, but their trade routes are encouraging other species to become independent. The Wanderer clans have stopped paying tribute to the Helix Confederation. The Rock Miners Union is refusing to honor their contracts with the Vorthan Empire. These humans seem to believe that all species should govern themselves. The chamber fell silent. This was indeed dangerous thinking. The Galactic Order depended on clear hierarchies. Major species guided and controlled minor ones. It had worked for thousands of years. They must be stopped, General Vex declared. We have dealt with rebellious species before. A show of force, followed by integration into proper galactic society. Standard procedure. I recommend immediate action, Krell agreed. My fleet can handle this easily. 47 ships should be more than enough to pacify their 3 largest colonies. Once they see our power, they will surrender and accept proper guidance. The vote was quick and unanimous. 12 species agreed that humanity represented a Class 7 expansion threat that required immediate containment. None of them requested additional intelligence gathering. None asked about human history or psychology. They had seen thousands of species rise and fall. This would be no different. Authorization granted, General Vex announced. War Commander Vex will lead the pacification campaign. Target the colonies of New Eden, Terra Nova, and Haven Point. Disable their ships, occupy their governments, and prepare them for integration. As the council session ended, representatives filed out discussing other business. Trade disputes, boundary negotiations, resource allocation. The human problem would be solved within a few weeks, then they could return to more important matters. Ambassador Krell remained behind, studying the holographic images one more time. Something about the humans bothered him, though he could not say what. They looked so ordinary, so harmless. Yet they had spread across space faster than any species in recorded history. He dismissed the feeling. War Commander Vex had never lost a battle. The Vorthan Empire would add another victory to its long list of conquests. These humans would learn their place in the Galactic Order, just like all the others. The chamber lights dimmed as Krell finally left. Above the empty seats, the holographic display continued to show human colonies, their cities glowing like stars in the darkness of space. War Commander Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue-green world of New Eden grow larger on the main screen. Behind him, 46 other Vorthan ships moved in perfect formation. Their crystal hulls gleamed in the light of the system's yellow star. All ships report ready for combat, announced his tactical officer. Enemy fleet strength appears minimal. We count 12 ships in orbit, mostly small civilian vessels. Vex nodded with satisfaction. Intelligence had been correct. These humans were barely capable of space travel, let alone proper warfare. His fleet could destroy everything in this system without breaking formation. Long-range sensors detect some kind of defensive platforms, the science officer reported. Primitive design. Energy output suggests basic shield generators and projectile. Weapons, how primitive, Vex asked. They appear to be using solid metal projectiles instead of energy weapons. Very crude technology, Commander. Vex almost laughed. Metal bullets against crystal armor and energy shields. It would be like throwing rocks at a mountain. These humans truly were as backward as the Council believed. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the planet, the communications officer announced. Put it through. The main screen changed to show a human female in some kind of uniform. She had short brown hair and tired-looking eyes. Behind her, other humans moved around. What appeared to be a control room. Unknown vessels, this is Colonial Governor Lisa Martinez of New Eden. You are entering human space without permission. State your purpose or leave immediately. Vex stepped forward, allowing the translator to convert his words. I am War Commander. Vex of the Vorthan Empire, acting under authority of the Galactic Council. Your species has been classified as a threat to galactic order. You will surrender immediately or face the consequences. The human woman stared at him for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was calm but hard. We don't know who you are or why you're here, but if you're here to hurt our people, you picked the wrong fight. The transmission ended. Vex blinked in surprise. No species had ever responded to a Vorthan ultimatum with threats. They usually begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. This human had sounded almost eager for battle. Sir, enemy ships are moving to intercept, the tactical officer reported. They are not retreating. On the screen, the small human fleet was indeed advancing. Their ships looked like scrap metal welded together by children. Mismatched hull plates, exposed weapon systems, and engines that seemed too big for their frames. Yet they moved with purpose and coordination. Begin the attack, Vex ordered. Disable their ships and prepare boarding parties. The Vorthan fleet opened fire with precise energy beams designed to overload enemy systems. The weapons were carefully calibrated to shut down ships without destroying them completely. Prisoners were more valuable than debris. The first beam struck a human destroyer that looked like it had been built from spare parts. Vex expected to see its engines die and its weapons go silent. Instead, the ship's lights flickered for a moment, then came back on. It continued forward, firing its crude projectile weapons at the nearest Vorthan cruiser. Sir, their ship should be disabled, the tactical officer said with confusion. Our weapons hit their main power core directly. Fire again. More energy beams lanced out, striking the same destroyer. This time, whole sections of its hull went dark. Atmosphere vented from several breaches. The ship listed to one side as its engines struggled to maintain course, and it kept fighting. Impossible, Vex muttered. That ship should be dead in space. The human destroyer, trailing debris and gas, rammed itself into the side of a Vorthan frigate. The impact sent both ships spinning. Then, to Vex's absolute shock, the human ship exploded. Not from battle damage, but deliberately. Someone had detonated the reactor core while the ships were still connected. Commander, the tactical officer shouted. The frigate Piece of Stars is gone. Total destruction. Vex stared at the expanding cloud of debris where two ships had been moments before. The humans had destroyed their own vessel just to take out one of his. Who did such a thing? All ships, concentrate fire on the remaining enemy vessels, he ordered. Full power. Destroy them before they can ram us. The battle became a nightmare of impossible human behavior. Their ships fought like wounded animals, refusing to die even when they should have been crippled. When a human cruiser lost its main engines, it used maneuvering thrusters to stay in the fight. When another ship lost its primary weapons, the crew somehow rigged a cargo bay to shoot containers full of metal scrap at Vorthan vessels. Most disturbing was their communication chatter. Vex ordered his officers to monitor human transmissions, expecting to hear panic and calls for retreat. Instead, he heard things that made no sense. "Tom, your port engine is gone. Fall back and let us handle this." "Negative, Sarah, still got guns and attitude. These crystal freaks want to fight, let's give them one." "Jake, your ship is venting atmosphere. You need to evacuate." "Can't do that, Lisa. Got a clear shot at their command ship. Tell my wife I love her." They were saying goodbye to each other while continuing to fight. No species did that. When a battle was lost, civilized beings surrendered to preserve their lives. They did not throw them away for no purpose. The worst moment came when the human flagship, a converted cargo hauler called Defiance, took direct hits from 3 Vorthan destroyers. The ship broke apart in the middle, its front and rear sections connected only by twisted metal and sparking cables. Vex watched the rear section drift away, powerless and bleeding air. The front section, containing the bridge and weapons, continued toward his fleet. It was dead in space, no engines, no shields, no hope of survival. "Sir, the human commander is hailing us," the communications officer reported. "Put him through." A human male appeared on screen. His uniform was torn and blood ran down his face from a head wound. Behind him, his bridge was a wreck of smoking electronics and exposed wiring. "Vorthan commander," the human said, his voice steady despite his obvious injuries. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Defiance. You want to see how humans fight? Watch this." The transmission ended. Moments later, sensors showed the human bridge section accelerating toward Vex's flagship. "Impossible. The ship had no engines." "Left. How is that thing moving?" Vex demanded. "Unknown, sir. It appears to be using some kind of chemical propulsion. Very primitive but effective." The dead human ship struck Vex's cruiser just below the main weapons array. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire forward section of the Vorthan vessel exploded outward in a ball of plasma and twisted metal. "Damage report," Vex shouted, as his ship shook and alarms filled the bridge. "Forward weapons offline. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. The humans somehow overloaded their reactor and used it as a bomb." Vex gripped his command chair as emergency lights bathed the bridge in red. Around his fleet, similar scenes played out. Humans ramming their dying ships into Vorthan vessels. Human crews fighting to the last person instead of surrendering. Human captains detonating their own reactors rather than be captured. When the battle finally ended, Vex counted his losses. 12 ships destroyed, 8 more heavily damaged. Against an enemy that should have been swept aside in minutes. On his screen, New Eden still hung in space, its defensive platforms still firing. The planet's surface was covered in lights, cities full of humans who had just watched their fleet die protecting them. "Sir, we are receiving another transmission from the planet," the communications officer reported quietly. Governor Martinez appeared again. Her control room looked the same, but her expression had changed. Where before she had seemed tired, now she looked dangerous. "Vorthan commander," she said, "you just killed some very good people. People with families, with children, with futures they'll never see. I want you to remember something. This was just one small colonial fleet. You haven't met humanity yet." The transmission ended, leaving Vex staring at an empty screen. Around him, his crew worked frantically to repair battle damage and tend to wounded. His great fleet, pride of the Vorthan Empire, limped away from a world defended by converted cargo ships and mining vessels, for the first time in his military career, War Commander Thex began to wonder if the Galactic Council had made a serious mistake. Admiral Elena Rodriguez sat in her command chair aboard the battleship Liberty, staring at the reports flooding in from across human space. The quantum communication network was working overtime, carrying messages faster than any alien species. Thought possible. New Eden attacked. Heavy casualties. Colonial fleet destroyed. Enemy force estimated at 47 ships. Terra Nova under approach by unknown alien vessels. Request immediate assistance. Haven Point Mining Station reports long-range contacts. Large fleet incoming. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command settle on her shoulders. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, routing communications and updating tactical displays. How long until the quantum relay reaches all colonies? She asked her communications officer. Message will reach the furthest settlements in 18 minutes, Admiral, Lieutenant Brooks replied. Every human ship, station, and colony will know. About the attack, Elena nodded. The aliens had made their first mistake by attacking New Eden. Their second mistake was not understanding how humans communicated. While most species relied on slow message drones or expensive subspace transmitters, humanity had built something different 50 years ago. When humans first found alien technology in that crashed ship, they had discovered quantum entanglement devices. Most species used them for scientific research. Humans had turned them into a galaxy-spanning communication network that allowed instant contact between any 2 points. Admiral, we have responses coming in from all sectors, Brooks announced. Elena stood up. Put them through. All channels. The main screen divided into dozens of smaller windows, each showing a different human commander, colony governor, or ship captain. Faces both young and old, male and female, representing every world humanity had settled. This is Admiral Rodriguez. She began, her voice carrying to every human settlement in known space. Unknown alien forces have attacked New Eden without warning or provocation. Our people fought bravely, but the colonial fleet was destroyed protecting civilian evacuations. Angry voices filled the channel. Questions, demands for information, offers of help. Elena raised her hand for silence. I need every available ship to report for duty immediately. Military, civilian, cargo, passenger, mining, everything that can fly and fight. We don't know who these aliens are or what they want, but they chose to shoot first. Now they get to meet humanity. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ship captains from across human space began reporting in. The cargo hauler Big Mama from the outer mining colonies. The luxury liner Star Princess from the tourist routes. Even the small courier ship Rabbit from the academic research stations. Admiral, this is Captain Williams of the merchant vessel Free Trader. We're carrying grain to Tau Ceti, but we can convert our cargo bays to missile launchers in 6 hours. Admiral Rodriguez, this is Director Murphy of the Asteroid Belt Mining Consortium. We have 47 rock haulers that can be weaponized. Where do you want us? Elena, this is Governor Chun from Alpha Centauri. Our entire orbital industry is switching to military production as of right now. What do you need first, ships? Or weapons? Elena felt a fierce pride watching her people respond. No panic, no arguments about jurisdiction or politics. Just humans doing what they did best, adapting to a crisis and working together. Captain Martinez from New Eden, Admiral, came a familiar voice. Elena turned to see Lisa Martinez on one of the screens, her face streaked with dirt, but her eyes burning with determination. The aliens retreated, but they'll be back. What are your orders? How bad are your defenses? Elena asked. Colonial fleet is gone, but our orbital platforms are still operational. The aliens seem surprised by our projectile weapons. Their shields don't handle kinetic impact very well. Elena made a note of that. Can you hold if they return? We'll hold or die trying. These things killed our people, Admiral. They're not taking our world. Similar reports came in from across human space. Every colony was mobilizing. Factories were retooling to produce weapons. Civilian ships were being converted to military use. Children were being taught to operate defense systems while adults prepared for war. Admiral, we're getting something interesting from the deep space monitoring stations, reported her intelligence officer, Commander Park. What do you have? Our sensor network has been tracking alien ship movements for the past 72 hours. They have 3 main fleets, each targeting one of our major colonies. But there's something else. The main screen changed to show a star map with moving dots representing ships. Elena studied the patterns, noting how the alien fleets moved in. Rigid formations with predictable routes. They're using standard military doctrine, she observed. Formation flying, scheduled communications, established supply lines, very organized. Yes, Admiral. And that makes them predictable. We've identified their command ships, supply vessels, and communication relays. They fight like an army from a textbook. Elena smiled grimly. Good. Textbook armies lose to people who throw out the textbook. What's the status on our intelligence network? Commander Park consulted his datapad. All deep cover operatives are reporting in. We have people on 17 different alien worlds, including 3 in their home systems. They're ready to begin operations. The aliens thought they were attacking a primitive species that had just discovered space travel. They had no idea that humans had been watching them for decades. The crashed ship on Earth had been just the beginning. Since then, human agents had infiltrated alien society as traders, researchers, and even low-level diplomats. Signal all operatives, Elena ordered. Begin Phase 1 operations. Sabotage, intelligence gathering, and propaganda distribution. I want every alien civilian to know their government started a war with a peaceful species. Already done, Admiral. Our people report that several alien worlds are experiencing mysterious technical failures. Power grids, communication networks, and transportation systems are all having problems. Elena turned to her tactical officer. Tom, what's our fleet strength? Counting everything that can mount a weapon, we have 437 ships ready for combat. Not all of them are proper warships, but they can all fight. Not enough for a direct confrontation, Elena mused, but more than enough for what I have in mind. These aliens fight like a traditional military force. Big fleets, fixed objectives, predictable tactics. They'll expect us to do the same. She turned back to the communication screens where dozens of human commanders waited for orders. Listen carefully, everyone. We're not going to fight the way they expect. No big fleet battles, no defensive fixed positions. We're going to hit them where they don't expect it and disappear before they can respond. What do you mean, Admiral? Asked Captain Williams. They attack our colonies, we attack their supply lines. They target our military bases, we target their civilian infrastructure. They want to fight a civilized war with rules and boundaries. We're going to show them what total war looks like. The communication channels buzzed with excitement as human commanders began to understand. This wouldn't be a traditional military campaign. It would be something their enemy had never encountered before. Every ship captain gets to choose their own targets. Elena continued. Hit supply convoys, communication relays, isolated outposts. Make them afraid to send small groups anywhere. Force them to keep their fleets together for protection. What about prisoners, Admiral? Asked Governor Martinez. Take them if you can, but don't risk human lives for it. Any alien who surrenders gets treated according to human standards, medical care, decent food, no torture. Let them see how civilized people behave. Then let them go home to tell their friends. Elena looked at each face on the screens, seeing the determination and anger there. These people had been peaceful colonists and traders just hours ago. Now they were becoming something their enemies couldn't understand, an entire civilization. At war. One more thing, she added. Make sure every alien you encounter knows this message. They declared war on the wrong species. Now they get to meet humanity. The communication channels closed as commanders returned to their ships and stations. Across human space, a transformation was beginning. Cargo ships became raiders. Mining equipment became weapons. Tourist destinations became military bases. Admiral Rodriguez turned to her crew. Set course for the Vorthen supply depot at Kepler. Station. Time to show these aliens what happens when you attack our people. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives arrived in heavily guarded ships, their usual confident demeanor replaced by visible worry. The Great Chamber, once a symbol of order and control, now felt like a fortress under siege. Ambassador Krell limped into his section, his gray skin marked with healing scars from a human attack on his personal transport 3 days earlier. Around the chamber, other representatives showed similar signs of stress. The war that was supposed to last weeks had dragged on for 6 months, with no end in sight. This council will come to order, General Vex announced, his forearms trembling. Slightly, Ambassador Krell, report on the current situation in Vorthen space. Krell activated his datapad with shaking fingers. The situation is unprecedented. Human raiders have struck 47 military installations, 62 supply convoys, and 15 civilian settlements. Our casualty reports show over 30,000 dead and twice that number wounded. Murmurs of shock rippled through the chamber. The Vorthen Empire had not suffered such losses in 3 centuries of warfare. How is this possible? Demanded the representative from the Silicon Collective. Your intelligence indicated they had barely 200 ships. Our intelligence was wrong about many things, Krell admitted. The humans appear to have at least 600 combat-capable vessels, possibly more. They strike without warning, destroy their targets, and vanish before our response fleets arrive. He activated the holographic display, showing star maps marked with red dots. There were hundreds of them, scattered across Vorthen territory like a disease. They do not fight like any species we have encountered. Yesterday, a human ship disguised as a medical transport approached our hospital station at Rigel 7. When our guards lowered their shields to allow emergency docking, the ship revealed hidden weapons and destroyed our entire defense grid. Disgusting, spat the ethereal collective representative. Using medical ships for military purposes violates every civilized law of war. The humans claim they were delivering medical supplies, Krell continued. After destroying our defenses, they actually did provide medical aid to our wounded. Then, they broadcast propaganda messages to our civilian population before leaving. The chamber fell silent. Using deception in war was one thing, but providing aid to enemies was completely outside normal behavior. What kind of propaganda? General Vex asked. They tell our people that their government started an unjust war against peaceful colonists. They provide video evidence of our attacks on their civilian settlements. They make us look like the aggressors. Another representative from the Wanderer clans shifted uncomfortably. Our own territories have experienced similar problems. Supply ships disappearing, communication relays failing, mysterious technical problems affecting our infrastructure. The humans have somehow infiltrated multiple species, Krell explained. We captured one of their operatives last week. Under interrogation, he revealed information that changes everything we thought we knew about this species. The holographic display changed to show a recording of a human male sitting in a Vorthen detention cell. He looked ordinary, brown hair, average height, wearing simple clothing. Nothing about him suggested the revelations he was about to provide. State your name and occupation, came Krell's voice from the recording. David Kim, Cultural Exchange. Researcher with the Galactic Anthropology Institute, the human replied calmly. How long have you been operating in Vorthan space? About 12 years. I've been studying your social structures and technological development patterns. For what purpose? David smiled slightly. To prepare for eventual contact between our species. We knew this day would come eventually. The recording paused as Krell addressed the council. This human had been living on our homeworld for over a decade. He spoke our language perfectly, understood our customs, and had access to classified military information through his research position. Impossible, General Vex declared. Our security systems would have detected an alien infiltrator. Not if that alien looked almost exactly like one of our own species, Krell replied grimly. Humans are remarkably similar to many galactic races. With minor cosmetic modifications, they can pass for Vorthan's collective members, even ethereals. In certain lighting conditions, the recording resumed. David was explaining how human intelligence networks operated across known space. We've had people embedded in most major civilizations for 40 to 50 years. Scientists, traders, diplomats, even some low-level government officials. We needed to understand who we might encounter when we finally revealed ourselves. You had been spying on us for half a century? Krell's recorded voice carried obvious shock. We prefer the term cultural research, but yes. We learned your languages, studied your military capabilities, mapped your trade routes, and assessed your political structures. We also made friends. Friends? Many species appreciate having humans around. We're good listeners, hard workers. And we don't try to impose our values on others. Some of your own people have been helping us for years without realizing it. The recording ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. There's more, Krell announced. Our intelligence. Services have identified human operatives in 17 different star systems. They have detailed maps of our territory, complete personnel files on our military leaders, and copies of our strategic defense plans. Representative Tull from the Helix Confederation leaned forward. Are you saying they knew about our military capabilities before we attacked them? Worse than that. They were prepared for war with us specifically. Their ships carry weapons designed to counter our shield frequencies. Their tactics are built around our standard military procedures. They know exactly how we fight and planned accordingly. The implications hit the council like a physical blow. The humans hadn't been caught off guard by the attack. They had been ready for it. How was their intelligence network so advanced? Asked the Silicon Collective representative. Because they think differently than we do, Krell explained. Most species gather intelligence through official channels, diplomatic missions, trade negotiations, formal cultural exchanges. Humans send individuals to live among us for decades, building relationships and gaining trust. Deception, General. Vex declared, is it? Many of their operatives genuinely came to care about the species they studied. David Kim spoke fondly of Vorthan friends and seemed genuinely sad about the war. They're not just gathering intelligence, they're building connections. The display showed new data, intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Human operatives revealing themselves and beginning open propaganda campaigns. Technical sabotage, increasing in frequency and sophistication. Most disturbing of all, several minor species had begun refusing to cooperate with council directives. The nomad clans have declared neutrality in this conflict, reported their representative. They cite philosophical differences with council war policies, but our intelligence suggests human diplomatic influence. The Silicon Collective has lost contact with 3 of our outer colonies, admitted another representative. They're not responding to official communications, but we're detecting human broadcast signatures from their systems. General Vex studied the reports with growing alarm. You're telling this, council that a species we considered primitive has been operating the most sophisticated intelligence network in galactic history? For 50 years, Krell confirmed. And that's not the worst part. According to David Kim, everything we've seen so far is just the beginning. He claims that human space contains billions of individuals, not the millions we estimated. He says their colonies are just the visible part of a civilization that spans hundreds of worlds. The chamber erupted in argument. Representatives shouted questions and accusations at each other. How had their intelligence been so wrong? Why hadn't anyone detected human activities earlier? What other species might be hiding their true capabilities? Through the chaos, Krell's voice cut like a blade. There's one more thing David Kim told us. When I asked him what humanity wanted from this war, he said something that should terrify every member of this council. The arguing stopped. He said, "Humanity doesn't want to conquer us or destroy us. They want to replace us. Not through military force, but by offering other species something we never have, the right to govern themselves." The silence that followed was absolute. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had maintained order through strength and hierarchy. Major species ruled, minor species obeyed, and everyone knew their place. Now they faced an enemy that wanted to change everything. 6 months after the first shots were fired at New Eden, Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of her flagship, watching the massive space station that housed the Galactic Council. The Liberty hung in space alongside 46 other human ships, but these were not warships preparing for battle. They were diplomatic vessels, their weapons powered down and their hulls displaying the symbols of peace. Behind the human fleet, a much larger formation waited in the darkness. Ships from dozens of species that had never worked together before now flew side by side. The Freedom Coalition, as humans had named it, represented nearly half the galaxy's intelligent species. "Admiral, we're receiving permission to dock," reported Lieutenant Brooks from the communication station. "The Council has agreed to hear our proposal." Elena nodded, adjusting her dress uniform. After months of hit-and-run warfare, this moment felt strange. No weapons, no surprise attacks, just words and ideas that would decide the future of galactic civilization. "Any word from our intelligence teams?" she asked. Commander Park consulted his datapad. "All operatives report successful completion of their missions. The Vorthan military has lost 60% of its fleet to our raids. Their civilian population is demanding explanations from their government. Similar situations exist across all Council territories." Elena smiled grimly. The war had been won not through massive battles, but through patience and precision. Human raiders had struck supply lines, communication centers, and isolated outposts while avoiding direct confrontation with main fleets. The aliens had superior technology, but humans had superior strategy. "What about our allies?" Elena asked. 47 species have officially joined the coalition. The Nomad Clans, the Free Miners Union, the Independent Traders Guild, and dozens of others. They're all sending representatives to the negotiations. Elena looked out at the mix of ships surrounding her flagship. Some were sleek and modern, others were crude but functional. What united them was a shared desire for something the Galactic Council had never offered: the right to determine their own futures. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Council," Brooks announced. "Put it through." The main screen showed General Vex, the Council leader, though he looked very different from the confident figure who had authorized the attack on humanity 6 months ago. His 4 arms hung limply at his sides, and his eyes carried the weight of devastating military losses. "Admiral Rodriguez," Vex began, his voice carefully controlled. "The Council has agreed to hear your terms for ending this conflict." "Thank you, General. We'll be docking in 30 minutes. "I must ask, will you be coming alone?" Elena smiled. "I'll be accompanied by representatives from the Freedom Coalition. After all, this isn't just about humanity anymore. The transmission ended, leaving Elena to prepare for the most important meeting in galactic history. An hour later, Elena walked through the corridors of the council station, flanked by an unusual group of beings. Captain Williams represented the human merchant fleet. Ambassador Terra spoke for the nomad clans. Engineer Bolt clicked and whirred as the representative of the Free Miners Union. Behind them came dozens of other delegates from species that had never been allowed to speak. In these halls, the great chamber had been rearranged for the occasion. The traditional elevated seats for the 12 major species remained, but new sections had been added at floor level for the coalition representatives. For the first time in galactic history, minor species would have equal voice in council proceedings. General Vex called the session to order, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. This emergency session will address the proposal submitted by the human-led Freedom Coalition for ending the current conflict. Elena stepped forward to the central platform, the same spot where Ambassador Krell had first condemned humanity as a threat to galactic order. Around her, representatives from both sides waited to hear words that would reshape civilization. Honored representatives, Elena began, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. 6 months ago, this council declared war on humanity, based on incomplete information and outdated thinking. Today, we offer you a chance to build something better. She activated the holographic display, showing a map of known space. Instead of the traditional territorial divisions marking which major species controlled which regions, the map showed something new: hundreds of independent systems connected by trade routes and mutual defense agreements. The old system is failing. Elena continued. Major species dominating minor ones, resources flowing upward while freedom flows downward. It worked when space was empty and species were isolated. But the galaxy has grown too complex for such simple hierarchies. Ambassador Krell, still bearing scars from human attacks, rose from his seat. What are you proposing? Chaos? Anarchy? We're proposing choice, Elena replied. Every species, every world, every station gets to decide how they want to be governed. Some will choose to remain part of larger empires. Others will form new alliances. Many will simply want to be left alone. Impossible, General Vex declared. Without central authority, there would be constant warfare, economic collapse, technological stagnation. Would there? Elena gestured to the coalition representatives. These species have been working together for 6 months, fighting alongside us, sharing resources, coordinating strategies. Not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. Captain Williams stepped forward. The Free Traders Guild has established new shipping routes between coalition worlds. Trade is actually increasing without council oversight and taxation. Engineer Bolt's translation device crackled to life. The Miners' Union has shared excavation technology with 12 different species. Productivity has improved 30% in coalition systems. One by one, coalition representatives spoke of successful cooperation, mutual aid, and voluntary collaboration. They painted a picture of a galaxy where species work together by choice rather than compulsion. You speak of ideals, said the ethereal collective representative, her transparent form shimmering with agitation. But what of security? Protection from external threats? Economic stability? Elena smiled. We've thought of that. The coalition proposes a new galactic organization. Not a council of rulers, but an association of equals. Species can join or leave freely. Decisions are made by consensus, not decree. And most importantly, no one species gets to decide the fate of others. The chamber erupted in arguments. Traditional council members shouted about the impossibility of governing without clear hierarchy. Coalition representatives countered with examples of successful cooperation. Human delegates provided detailed proposals for everything from trade agreements to mutual defense pacts. Through the chaos, Alina waited patiently. This was exactly what she had expected. Change was never easy, especially for those who benefited from the current system. The Council will need time to consider these proposals, General Vex finally announced over the noise. Of course, Alina agreed. But while you're deciding, the coalition will continue to grow. More species join us every day. The Helix Confederations. Outer colonies declared independence yesterday. The Silicon Collective's mining worlds are holding referendum votes on membership. She paused, letting the implications sink in. You can join the new order voluntarily, or watch it grow around you. But the old system is ending whether you accept it or not. The negotiations continued for 3 days. Behind closed doors, Council. Representatives struggled with a reality they had never imagined. Their authority was simply evaporating. Species that had been loyal for centuries were choosing independence. Worlds that had never questioned Council rule were demanding representation. The 4th day, General Vex made the announcement that ended an era of galactic history. The Galactic Council accepts the Coalition proposal for the establishment of the Galactic Association of Free Worlds. All current territorial claims are hereby dissolved. All species are free to choose their own government and alliances. Alina stood as applause filled the chamber from the Coalition sections. Around her, representatives from dozens of species celebrated the birth of a new type of galactic civilization. There is one condition, General Vex added, his voice heavy with resignation. Humanity will take primary responsibility for maintaining galactic peace and security. We accept, Alina replied, but not as rulers, as partners. The age of empires is over. The age of cooperation begins now. As the session ended and representatives began planning for their new futures, Alina looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, human colonies continued to grow and prosper. Species that had never known freedom were learning to govern themselves. And in the deep darkness between galaxies, sensors continued to monitor for threats that might one day require all of them to work together. The galaxy had changed forever, and humanity had been the catalyst. Not through conquest or domination, but by offering something simple and revolutionary, the chance for every species to determine its own destiny.